All right, we want to welcome in Patrick Mooney. Always appreciate him being on the show. Of course, he's the senior writer for The Athletic, covering the Chicago Cubs, a contributor on Foul Territory TV and Northside Territory. Patrick, great to see you. Let's start with the conversation surrounding PCA. In one convo, I hear they're going to extend him. In another convo, I hear that they might trade him. What's going on with him?
Oh, they're definitely not trading him, but our kind of rule of thumb at The Athletic now is just you cannot overwrite Pete Crow-Armstrong. It seems like every time he steps to the plate, something might happen. Crazy defense in center field and just causing havoc on the bases. So those extension talks have not been totally extinguished, or the Cubs have not shut the door on that. There's a lot of time for that to happen, but he is certainly playing at an MVP level where he might be in his best interest to wait.
Do you have any idea if this was a knee-jerk reaction to his start of the season? Because last year all we heard about PCA was great defense. Man, he's barely even in the big leagues unless Craig Counsell, the $8 million manager, approved him to be in the big leagues. The org didn't really seem like they were too high on him, or they expected more. I'm not sure what it was. But now, does this feel like a 2-month knee-jerk reaction?
No, I think he just, because he's such a great athlete, as Jed Hoyer said the other day, that he's able to do special things. And I do think Counsell was big for helping his development, of telling him when he came up, like, look, just play defense, make a difference on the bases. So you don't worry about your hitting. But behind the scenes, the Cubs hitting group did a great job of, getting his stance and his swing into a place where he can do damage. I think part of it is just the game teaching him how to slow it down, channel some of his wild energy. And, I do think the Cubs have a good group of steady veteran players who are those baseball gym rats and helped him develop a routine. But look, in the middle of April, he was barely hitting. No one saw this coming this fast, and that's why people can't stop talking about him.
Are you ready for this? Are you ready, Patrick, for what I'm about to say? For right now, Pete Crow-Armstrong is my MVP of the National League for what he's done offensively and defensively. So you should record that and show all your little Cub friends that I said something good about the Cubs, okay?
Because you've always been a Cubs homer and apologist. We all get it.
No doubt. There's no doubt. But no, I'm serious. He has been incredible. I know it's been a month, but if he continues this, he's at least in the conversation for sure. With his defense, his stolen bases, his hitting. And the thing is, he gets big hits. These aren't down 9-2 and he hits a solo homer. He's hitting grand slams. He's hitting these home runs that are huge. So I don't know what else there is to say. And if I was him, I would not sign an extension. I would wait till the end of the year and then be like, look, guys, here's my whole year's work. This is only going to get better. This is the baseline. Now come to me, Ricketts family, which they won't, but that's fine.
Well, yeah, he's definitely not, putting up garbage time numbers. He's definitely not just along for the ride. It's, you got to remember, this is someone who started playing for Team USA on their 12 and under team. He went to Harvard Westlake, could have gone to Vanderbilt, first round pick without even having a true senior year in 2020. So this was always in there. I think he's had a ton of confidence. That's what has become clear in talking to people who've worked with him over the years. But he's also very self-aware. He loves just kind of the day-to-day craft aspect to that, working on his craft, learning more about the game. And so that very well may be what happens, of them ultimately kind of punting on this. But why I've written about the extension stuff is that they talked at length right around the Tokyo series is where it came to a head, and they decided to kind of table things. But it leaked out a couple weeks later, but there was no sense of this was a take it or leave it offer. I think it's become clear that Jed Hoyer, though he's in the last year of his contract, has the authority and interest to think well beyond just the end of this season. Pete says he loves it here, wants to be in Chicago for a long time. His dad grew up in the suburbs of Chicago. Pete is someone who grew up in a house that had the Anthony Rizzo framed Sports Illustrated cover celebrating the 2016 World Series. And this front office, to Eric's point earlier. Yeah,
that poor kid. That poor kid.
This front office wants to build around him. So, I don't know. It could still happen. I think that's kind of the point of this conversation here of our listeners, our readers, shouldn't be totally blindsided if something does pop up, because there's a lot of, mutual interest here. At the same time, if you're an MVP, if AJ Pierzynski is saying you're an MVP at the age 23 while working at Wrigley Field, you must be doing something extraordinary.
Either that or hold on. Or I've lost my bloody mind. I don't know which one it is. Maybe that's sun poisoning. I'm not sure, but one or the other.
Yeah.
Or he was taken over by aliens, Patrick. Anytime he's saying anything positive about the Cubs, he has had an out-of-body experience. How do you go, though, from that kid that overslept on the first day of instructional league to a kid that perhaps gets an extension and is a huge piece of the puzzle for what the Cubs want to do doing forward? I would imagine maturity, but it seems like something else has a switch has flipped for him, it appears.
Yeah, I think it's someone who has great raw talent that is able to do things on a baseball field that most people cannot. And it's also someone who is very self-aware, extremely articulate, can really break down the game and understand personalities. And he has jokes with Seiya Suzuki, and then he's also, kind of bouncing around the clubhouse talking to everyone. He's not withdrawn. He's eager to learn. And, AJ knows this. The Cubs, historically are in a market that kind of, overhypes prospects, maybe jumps to conclusions. But there is a support system here of the $8 million manager that Eric mentioned, who had a really nice reputation for developing young talent in Milwaukee. It's guys like Dansby Swanson, Nico Horner, Ian Happ, who were in his ear encouraging him when his numbers were terrible offensively at the start of the year, and saying, stick with the process. It's a long year. We all know how Wrigley can play in April. Just keep doing your thing. Things are going to turn. And that is what's happened. It's just the degree to which it's happened is still kind of stunning.
Patrick, I need a number. What's it going to take where, obviously any extension, Cubs fans are going to be like, wow, the Ricketts are actually spending money. We're good with that, whatever the number is. But what's it going to take? What's it going to take today? Because tomorrow he might hit another big hit and that number just keeps going up.
Well, I think, before the start of the season, I think Corbin Carroll's deal, which was put together by CAA, the same agency that represents Pete, that would have been not even a high end, but probably unrealistic, not even worth talking about. But now that might be a little outdated. And so clearly it's a 9-figure commitment. It would be from Pete's side, I'm sure they would want to limit those club option years, those free agent years. You want to preserve flexibility for that. But I think part of it too is his floor is really high. Even a worst case scenario for Pete Crow-Armstrong is probably being a 10-year big leaguer. And, maybe it's bouncing around on shorter term deals, but collecting nice money as a Gold Glove center fielder who brings great speed and has, charisma and, good connections throughout the game. But, his ceiling is kind of unlimited at this point. And that's kind of the not even friction here, but that's just the forces at play of, why it hasn't happened. I think it's clear that how it unfolded around the start of the season, it was not, an Anthony Rizzo situation a couple of years ago where he made it clear, like, I don't want to continue this discussion at all. Don't bother. This was more of okay, each side understands where the other is coming from. There wasn't enough common ground at that moment. Both sides are getting a lot more information. And I do think if you look back at that last great era of Cubs baseball, there was a frustration they kind of paid the price for not extending some of those guys. That's why they all kind of came up together, came to the end at that 2021 trade deadline. They got Rizzo done early. They got Kyle Hendricks done on the pitching side. Javi might have gotten done if not for the pandemic. But at the ownership level, within the front office, ideally they would like to not see one of those cliffs again and to have guys to build around and to have waves of talent coming in after Pete.
If you're a card collector or you'd like to get into card collecting, may I suggest Arena Club and slab packs, which means that you can rip the packs digitally and, of course, get the card that you want. It's also the most trusted name in the game, and I would rather rip packs these days on my phone than sit next to you and have you grabbing one of my physical packs if I was grabbing one.
Yeah, you don't need me grabbing your packs because last time you grabbed one, it ended up like this card. So let's not have that, and that's why Arena Club is great. They send them to you in these fancy protectors like this Scout Brown card that we have here, and they'll come safe. They're already graded. Or you could do like I do and just leave my cards in the showroom and never actually see them physically.
Yeah.
But they're safe, protected, and if I want to sell them, I can.
Buy, sell, trade. They offer full transparency, showing every card in the slab pack with the likelihood of pulling each one so you know exactly what's available before you buy. Get 20% off your first slab pack or card purchase by going to arenaclub.com/FAL and use code FAL.
Patrick, who's more important to this offense, Seiya Suzuki or Kyle Tucker? Seiya Suzuki's having a heck of a year. He leads the league in RBIs, right? And then Kyle Tucker's come in and obviously changed the lineup completely. Mm-hmm. But who's more important, Seiya Suzuki or Kyle Tucker?
I still think it's Tucker. I mean, Seiya acknowledged this the other day that, through his interpreter, that he's learned a lot from watching Kyle Tucker, seeing how he makes adjustments, seeing how Kyle Tucker is very steady, even keel. I think hitting in the middle of this lineup in between, Tucker, you have Ian Happ setting the table, you have Pete Crow-Armstrong, Michael Busch behind you. It just kind of opens things up. And I think Seiya's learned to be more aggressive. And part of that was just through experience, but Tucker's a great example. There are times where Seiya was a little too passive, that like his physical abilities, the kind of batted ball data, it all just like didn't add up. Like there should have been more in there. And I think that's what you're seeing. And to me, Kyle Tucker is a big part of that.
Patrick, do you think that the Cubs would pay both PCA and Kyle Tucker?
Probably not. And I don't even I think Kyle Tucker, we have no evidence to suggest that like the Cubs are going to do that sort of deal between Vladimir Guerrero and Juan Soto to make a commitment, a decade plus. They've never done that before. I think what, Pete, what would make sense for Pete is not unreasonable in kind of the grand scheme of baseball economics. Plus, there's a lot of time. I think Pete's under club control through 2030. So like you could make the prediction and you have a lot of chances to get that right. I think with Tucker, it's certainly a possibility. It's just not, the Cubs just have not, that's not their business plan thus far. And maybe Kyle Tucker is the ultimate exception. Maybe this year goes so well. Maybe there are other forces out there that his free agency doesn't quite go the way we expect. But right now, I would certainly expect a Pete extension to be more likely than a Kyle Tucker extension, no doubt.
All right, Patrick, is this the Craig Counsell contract coming to fruition the way the last 5 series, this bullpen without Porter Hodge, without two big-time starting rotation pieces that alleviate some of the stress on the bullpen. Is this the contract? This is what they paid Craig Counsell to do because they kept watching it year in and year out in Milwaukee?
Yeah, I no doubt. And I think that's part of why you look at sort of the Cubs payroll over the years and, some of the frustrations of like, why can't the Cubs do this when they spend more than Milwaukee? And it's a lot more complicated than that. But that was a big reason of why they went out and made the very uncomfortable decision to fire David Ross, who did a very good job under the circumstances, who was building towards this. But yeah, Counsell is this, as you know, Eric, kind of an extension of the front office, part of the checks and balances with an organization. Counsell is certainly that force of asking questions, of wondering, is there a different way to do this, of trusting in young talent, whether it's Pete Crow-Armstrong or whether it's some of these guys they essentially got off the scrap heap. Like the Cubs have built up this pitching infrastructure over the years. And I definitely think Counsell's sense of calm, his kind of common sense approach, all of those things are coming together here. I think people just thought there might have been, it would have shown up a little sooner, maybe last year. I mean, 83 wins under David Ross and Craig Counsell, but this is what the Cubs have been building for, of getting a Kyle Tucker, seeing Pete Crow-Armstrong emerge, and then just figuring out the pitching on a day-to-day basis. That does seem to be a strength of Craig Counsell.
One, they're a big market team. Go spend some money, okay? And don't give me. So let's not act like we're a mid-market team. We're the Cubs, okay? Go spend money. You have the McDonald's across the street that makes $1 billion. You have the hotel, okay? Let's stop with that, okay? I didn't get to even mention that, but let's go out and spend the money you need to spend. Now, Palencia, is he the closer?
I'm not arguing that. You're right. Yeah, no doubt.
Is Palencia the closer going forward? I know Porter Hodge is out, and there's been struggles with other guys, but is he going to be the closer, you think, of the future, not only this year, but going forward?
I think Counsell being Counsell, they could still do some matching up. Like if there are certain, to use the manager speak, like certain pockets of the lineup that they want to feature a different pitcher, I could see that. But Palencia, no doubt, has shown a lot here of just, he's got that, crazy high end velocity that this bullpen had been kind of lacking. It's the swing and miss stuff. He's really grown up and needed time to become comfortable at this level. You're seeing that. I do think you guys know it's different. Those last 3 outs, and thus far he's passed the test. I mean, granted, it might have been the worst. He might have been facing the worst team of all time in the 2025 Colorado Rockies, but no doubt a guy that they trust has earned the opportunity. And this is the Counsell effect that Eric talked about, pumping confidence into these young pitchers, not overreacting, and also managing with the long season in mind. Like, he's not a guy has a history of wearing out relievers. He tries to find spots to rest guys, really kind of use it as one kind of cohesive unit. So I would certainly see, like, Palencia is one of those, as Counsell would say, you need good surprises for like good seasons to happen, and he is certainly one of those.
Yeah, maybe no surprise to anybody, Patrick. The Cubs with the lead in the division, a 3-game lead, 8-2 in their last 10. They take on the Cincinnati Reds beginning tomorrow. Patrick, we appreciate you taking the time to be with us, and obviously you can catch Patrick on North Side Territory.
Hey, everybody. Be sure to like and subscribe for more content.
We're back here every weekday, all year long, so do not miss an episode.
The videos are coming in all day. Here's another video you might enjoy.
Baseball the way it should be covered.